In this video, we are going to design a light sensor. Yes, you and I, we are going to design a light sensor. We are going to start from the basic circuit theory, through the simulation using Proteus, and finally conclude with a prototype on the breadboard. But before we get started, my name is Kenja, and I am a holder of a bachelor degree in electrical and electronics engineering. In this channel, I share with you my experience as far as engineering is concerned, some of the things I wish I knew and did back then in order to stand out and make a difference in this field. Without wasting much of your time, let's get started. We are going to make use of a breadboard. We are going to make use of two batteries, each of 3.7 volt, combined in series in order to obtain roughly 7 volt. We are going to make use of an LDR, which is the brain of this circuit. We are equally going to make use of a LED. We are going to make use of two resistors, one of 220 ohm and another of 1 kilo ohm. We shall equally make use of some jumper wires to connect the components together. And finally, we are going to make use of a transistor. Here, I am using a 2N222 transistor, but you can use any other transistor of your choice that can perform switching. Before we continue, it is important we know what a light sensor is. A light sensor is simply a sensor which is capable of detecting the presence of light and performing any action depending on your need. For our case, we want to detect the presence of light and shine an LED. And when there is no light, the LED goes off. Here is the circuit. We shall have a 6 volt battery connected here, and we are going to have a 220 ohm before the LED. And we have our transistor. Here is the collector and here is the emitter, and we have the ground. The resistor of 1 kilo ohm is connected to the base of the transistor from the ground, and we have the LDR, that's the light dependent resistor, connected from the base to the power source. So what happens is that when the circuit is powered, at this level, current has to flow through this branch and through this branch. When it reaches the LDR, in the presence of light, the resistance of the LDR is very low, such that current will be able to flow from this LDR to the base of the transistor, thereby activating the transistor. And when the transistor is activated, it becomes a short circuit, allowing current to flow from the power source through the LED and to the ground. Hence, the LED here is going to shine. On the other hand, in the absence of light, the resistance of the LDR is very high, such that this LDR will be significant to an open circuit, and no current is going to flow from the power source to the base of the transistor. Therefore, the transistor will not be activated, and no current will flow from the power to the LED, and the LED is not going to shine. So here is the circuit and the basic working principle of this circuit. So now let's move on to the simulation of this circuit and later on to the prototyping. Now for the simulation, let's enter our software, Proteus. Again, if you don't know how to use Proteus, drop a comment down below and we shall maybe do a video in order to help you in that. So the first thing we want to do is to pick our components. To do that, simply come where you see this P icon. Left click there and you can start writing the name of your component. So we need a resistor. We are going to use the generic. Since we have several components to pick, we are not going to hit enter, but instead we'll double click on the component and the component will be selected. We are going to do same for the LDR. We are going to use the touch LDR. We are going to use a resistor. We already have that. We are going to use a LED. We are going to use the red LED. Make sure you take the active LED. We are going to need a battery. So still take the active battery, and I think the last component we need is the transistor, and we said we are going to use a 2N222 transistor. So just search the 2N222 and here it is. So now we can hit enter. Now we are going to design our circuit. So now when you are done designing your circuit, don't forget to always put a ground. You have to ground your system, and you're going to place the ground here at the emitter terminal to ground the battery, the resistor, and the transistor. Now we are going to change the resistance of this R1 to 1 kilo ohm, and we are equally going to change the voltage of the battery to 6 volts. Then we change the resistance of R2, the resistance of the LED, to 220 ohm. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom in so we can see what is going on. Now I'm going to run the simulation. You simply come down here, this play button below, bottom left, and you click there. Now this is the LDR. We know that when there is light, the resistance of the LDR is low. It's very minimum, close to 0, such that current can flow from the battery to the transistor, thereby shining the LED. Now to do that, you simply have to come to these two arrows close to the touch. The one above is the one to increase the brightness, and when you do that, you'll notice that the touch is moving closer to the LDR, and by so doing, the LED starts shining. So in the presence of light, the LDR allows current to flow to the transistor, and then the LED shine. Now if you do the reverse, we bring the light backward, you notice that the LED stops shining, and this is how the light sensor works. So now that the simulation is working, we are going to move to prototyping of this circuit. So now for the prototyping, we said we are going to use a 2N2222 transistor, and with the 2N22 transistor, this is the collector, and in the middle we have the base, and here we have the emitter. So if you don't have the 2N22 transistor, you can use any other transistor which can perform switching, and you can always download the data sheet online to know the pin configuration of your transistor. So we are going to place our transistor here. We know that the 220 ohm resistor has to be connected from the power source through the LED and to the emitter to the collector of the transistor. So we are going to connect it here from the 220 ohm to the collector, like that. And also the 1 kilo ohm resistor is connected from the base of the transistor to the ground. So we are going to consider this ray to be our ground and this line to be our power. Now the LDR is also connected from the base of the transistor to the power supply. You need to make sure that it is well connected. So I think this is good. Now we need to ground the emitter of the transistor. So that is our ground, and we need to supply our circuit with our two batteries connected in series. So the power source is going to be placed here. Let's observe what happens when we power this circuit. This is going to be our ground. So when the circuit is powered, as you can see, the LED remains off. This is because there is no light source available. In the presence of light, the LED is going to shine. So let's bring in a light source and see. You notice that the LED is shining. Immediately the light source is taken away, it goes off. And that is how the light sensor works. This is how a light sensor is designed. We have come to the end of this video. We hope you got some value from this. In our next video, we shall have a continuation of this video where we shall be designing a dark sensor. Thank you all for watching and see you there. Peace.